All right, so you can see I've done a little bit of work on my racetrack since the last video you saw. I smoothed it out a little bit, took some time, and I now have a nicely shaped S racetrack here. So the next thing I want to do is I actually want to add my Kodoo onto the screen, and I'm going to design a game where my Kodoo races a computer automated Kodoo. So you need to click on the object tool. I'm going to left click and go to add object, and this time actually let's add a rover instead. So we're going to add a rover. I'm going to hover over it. I'm going to make my rover blue, and then to me that rover looks a little bit big, so I can right click, I can go to change size, and I can make him a little bit smaller. So I've shrunk him down to about half the size. So I got to remember that size, so I change all rovers to that same size. So from here, I've got my rover. The blue rover is going to be me. If I click the object tool again, right next to him, I'm going to left hand or right hand click, go to add object, going to add another rover. This one, I'm going to use my arrow keys. This one's going to be purple. And then I want to right click on the rover and I want to change his size to about half the size as well. So now I've got two little rovers and I can position them right at the beginning, ready to go. So here, the first thing I need to do is I need to program my rover, me, to race. And here I'm actually going to program two different objects. You'll also have to pay attention to which object I'm programming. So if I right click on rover one, the blue rover, that's me, I'm going to program him to when we use the keyboard and when we use those arrow keys, we are going to move. So that's what we're going to do when the game starts. So if I press escape and I press play, the game starts and my little rover can move. I've got him moving, at least he's ready to race. Now, the next piece of this is I actually need to program this little guy right here to be computer automated. And there's a special tool in here called the path tool that allows us to create computer automated objects. And so if you click on this path tool, that's what this three little dots is. If we click right in front of this Kodoo, what you'll see is that it will start to design a path. And so we can design a path for him. Maybe we want him to go up here, here, and every time you click, we can see, and then if you left hand click on the last or right hand click on the last one, you'll see that I've designed a path for my Kodoo or for my rover to actually follow. So now I need to program my rover to do this. And I want him to start this right at the beginning of the program. So if I right hand click, and if I can get it to open, I need to click on my object tool first. Don't forget that piece. If I right hand click on my object tool and then right hand click onto program for the red guy, you'll notice he needs some instructions. And I want him to do this right at the beginning of the program. I want him to follow the path. So what we're actually going to do is we're not going to put an instruction for when. And by not putting an instruction for when, we are actually saying to the computer, do this all the time. So we're going to immediately follow the path, not wait for something to happen, but we're going to do this immediately from the very beginning. So if I click on the do, I'm going to move on the path, and you'll see that that is an option. So we've now programmed our Kodoo to move on the path as the game starts. So if I escape out of here and I press play, you'll notice I've now programmed two objects. I've programmed myself to move around the screen, and I've programmed the computer Kodoo to move according to the path. So if I press play, you'll notice I can race. But the problem is right now there's no way to win or lose, and what you'll also notice is that the computer Kodoo continues to follow that path back and forth for the entire game until we press escape. So we have a little more programming to do. Now from here, we actually want to create a beginning and an ending line. So I'm going to click on the terrain down here, I'm going to click on the colors, and I'm going to scan all the way to, I believe it's in the 40s or 50s. If I go all the way to 54, I see a nice blue. And I'm going to use the blue for my start. And now I'm going to use my arrow keys left and right to shrink this down a little bit. And I'm going to draw a blue starting line across my screen. And this is where my race is going to start. And then from here, I want to do the same thing, but create a finishing line. So I'm going to click, going to scan all the way through until I find a red one. And I'm going to go to 47 and click on 47. and at the very, very end, create a nice little finish line. So I can see here that I have a starting and a finish line, and now I'm actually going to program a winner based on these colors. So if I click on my object tool, I want to program me. So I click on my Kodu and I click program, and now I want to program him to display that he won if he reaches the red first. So if you click on when, there's actually in the more section, it says on land. So we can say when on land. Then if we click the plus sign again, we can click the types and we can click red. So what we're saying is when our Kodu reaches the red. So if he reaches the red first, we want to display that the blue team, so my blue Kodu that I'm racing, won. So if I click on the plus sign, I go to game, win, and then I can display the color of my Rover, which is blue. So when I reach that red land, if I reach that first, I'm going to display that blue has won. I can press escape, and now I want to program the second Rover, so this red Rover, to do the same thing. So if I right click on him and go to program, I want to say when, and then I go into the more section, when on land, and when I'm on the red land, so 47, we're going to display in the game that we have won with the red Rover instead. So now it will, when it reaches that final destination, whoever reaches it first will be the winner. So if I press escape, I can now test this out. So if I press play, we've now started our race. Going well. And if I reach the red line first, it stops and displays that the blue team has won. It did glitch out a little bit here, but it would normally display that the winner is from the blue team. And then if the computer won, it would say the winner is from the red team. So that's what our code will display. It'll display who won, and then you can play again multiple times if you would like. So here, you'll notice we can also go further and we can tweak our rovers if you remember. So if we can go into change settings, remember you can change the turning speed and the forward speed of the different rovers. So you'll notice here I'm going to change his to maybe be a little bit quicker because I beat the computer that time. I want to make it a little harder. So if I press play this time, he is super fast. But because of he's super fast, he gets a little stuck on those turns and turned around. But you can see that the red team did in fact win that time. So just taking the time to really purposefully program, look at those different speeds that you want. Now you should be able to make a computer automated Kodu and be able to program it so that the appropriate player wins.